The footage from my Insta360 X4 just doesn't look like the footage on your channel. I don't understand why, but often my X4 footage contains a lot of noise. After watching the videos on your channel, I would have expected more from the X4. Over the last few months, comments like this have been posted on my channel time and time again. So I think it's time for a beginner's tutorial on the X4. Today I'm going to show you what the secrets are for good 360 shots with the X4, but first and foremost what the 11 most common beginner's mistakes are and how you can avoid them. The individual clips are far too long. At the beginning, it's normal to press record when you're out cycling or skiing, for example, and then just let the camera roll. Some people even forget to press stop. Why should that be a problem? Apart from the fact that especially with 8K recordings, your SD card will fill up quickly, hardly anyone wants to watch very long clips, especially if there isn't something new happening all the time. It's also extremely tedious to reframe very long clips or to check whether there might be an interesting part at some point. So make sure you shoot more consciously with your X4, recognize interesting moments, and take shorter clips and time them correctly so that you don't miss any important situations. This will help you a lot when editing and reframing your shots. You're not taking lens stitching into account. As you probably know, your X4 has two separate cameras. The footage from both cameras is then stitched together to create a single 360 image. If you look closely, you can see the transition between the two images. Depending on the shooting situation and the lighting conditions, you can recognize the transition more or less clearly. Lens stitching can therefore lead to a reduction in image quality. Most beginners don't even realize this and don't think about it when shooting. However, you can solve the problem relatively easily. For example, if you are filming yourself, you should hold the camera so that one of the two lenses is facing you. The edge, so the outside of the camera, should not look in the direction of your subject. And of course, you shouldn't turn the camera during the recording. This makes it relatively easy to avoid unsightly lens stitching transitions. You don't perform any camera movements. The Insta360 X4 is a fantastic tool for creative shots. It even allows two different types of camera movements. Physical movements during shooting, so real camera movements, and changes to the framing that you can add yourself in post when reframing. Both movements are important and can also be combined with each other. So if it makes sense, always remember to perform a physical movement of the camera during the recording. This makes the shot look more dynamic and interesting. This can also be a simple forward movement. In post, you can then use keyframes to add changes to the framing, making the shot look even more dynamic and interesting. There are many videos on YouTube that provide ideas for creative movements with the X4. I'll put a few links to the most interesting ones in the video description. As it can be complicated to create interesting movements using keyframes, the Insta360 app has received a variety of predefined movements with the latest update, which you can quickly and easily add to your recording. I show you how this works in my video about the update. By the way, you'll find a link to all the videos I'm going to mention today in the video description. And the topic of the smartphone app brings us to the next mistake. Many beginners in particular use the X4 almost exclusively in combination with the smartphone app. They copy their files to the smartphone, do a quick reframing and share the clip. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with that, especially when it comes to AI-generated effects and auto-edit features. The smartphone app is the better choice than the desktop app. But the desktop app also has a number of advantages. Working on a desktop allows you to work more precisely due to the larger screen alone. You have more control, and the desktop app has another decisive advantage. It allows you to export in ProRes. And only if you export your clips in ProRes will you get the best possible image quality. While your 360 recordings on your smartphone are compressed even further, ProRes is an almost lossless format. For cool and fast, automatically generated effects, the smartphone app is great. For the best possible image quality, you should use the desktop app. And that brings us to the next problem. Many people simply copy their recordings to a hard drive without organizing them in any way. But if you don't find a way to organize your files and recordings, you'll never find certain recordings again when you look for them. The X4 recordings also have a somewhat strange format and are relatively large. To reduce storage space, I recommend that you reframe all your files as soon as possible after recording and then save them in a special folder. You should think about a system for naming the folders and files. I myself usually use the mount I used and the activity shown in the video for the file name. For example, skiing with pole. You can also name the folder after the activity and possibly add the date. If you then search for your recording, you will very quickly find your videos of skiing, biking, surfing and so on. I would only keep the source files for very special and good recordings. simply to save storage space. The next point is particularly important. Many people always use the same mount for their X4. I would say that in most cases this is a pole. The pole is of course also the perfect mount for a 360 camera, if only because it disappears from the shot. But there are many more options and many of them are very interesting. To fully realize the creative potential of a 360 camera, you should definitely try out different mounts. Only with the right mount can you film yourself perfectly when cycling, skiing, and all sorts of other activities while still having both hands free. I've made a very detailed video about the different and best mounts for the X4. In that video I show the most interesting mounts and accessories from Insta360 and also show how the footage looks with each mount. You should definitely take a look at some of them, because I'm always being asked how I took this shot, for example, or this one. Many people also make the mistake of not getting to grips with the many different settings and features of the X4. They always use the default settings. On the X4, that's 5.7K at 30 frames per second. But firstly, this is not the best possible setting, and secondly, there is no single setting that is optimal for all situations. There is an optimal setting for low light, one for natural nature shots, one for classic action, or even the right setting for underwater shots. The advanced shooting settings can also help you to achieve the best possible image quality. You can open them by swiping from the right edge to the left. You can also find a detailed tutorial on the settings and the many features of the X4 on my channel. I can highly recommend this tutorial to beginners in particular. But it's not just the settings. Many people only use their X4 in video mode. However, the Insta360 X4 has a variety of shooting modes with which you can achieve excellent results thanks to the 360-degree image and the invisible selfie stick effect. Not only can you record very special videos with the X4, but you can also take extraordinary hyperlapses or time lapses, and the pure shot format also enables high quality 360 photos. The bullet time mode also creates a cool effect and is fun to use. So keep trying new things. It's fun, and ultimately that's what using the X4 is all about. We've now heard a lot about features and shooting techniques, but I think the next 3 mistakes are probably some of the biggest mistakes if the X4 is the first 360 camera someone buys. Don't make the mistake of thinking that the X4 is the perfect camera for all situations. The X4 is fantastic for creative and immersive shots outdoors and in good lighting conditions. You can take great action shots with the X4, as well as cool vlogging and travel shots. But the extremely wide angle and the small sensors have their limits. Although Insta360 has managed to slightly improve the low-light performance of the X4 compared to the X3, the X4 is not the perfect camera in low light. This also means indoor shots. The sensors are simply too small for this, and you will often get image noise. The best results with the X4 are achieved outdoors during the day and preferably in sunshine and with a blue sky. However, the small sensors and the extremely wide angle also have an advantage. More or less everything that can be seen in the image is sharp and in focus. This is important for an action camera, as it means there are no focus issues. The problem is that depending on the environment, thousands of small details are captured. Just imagine a shot in a forest. In order to keep the file size small, the images are compressed, and the more similar small details there are, the more likely it is that compression problems will occur. The image quality will decrease. This is particularly true if you share your shots on social media, as uploading them compresses them even further. So it's therefore not only the light that is important for good image quality, but also the environment. Open landscapes are much more suitable than a forest with lots of trees. Understandably, very few beginners take this into account. I have now given you 10 typical beginners' mistakes, and you can find several X4 tutorials on all kinds of topics on this channel. Nevertheless, I would like to say today that no tutorial or guide can completely replace personal experience. That's why I believe that many beginners try too little themselves, test too little, and simply do not film enough. Always take your X4 with you when there might be something interesting to capture, and simply try out as much as possible. This is the only way to find out what you personally like best and how you can achieve the best results for yourself. There is simply no substitute for personal experience. Nevertheless, I would of course like to recommend a whole series of tutorials to every beginner, which you can watch at any time if necessary, and which will certainly help you to make even faster progress. I've put together a list which you can find in the video description as already mentioned. And if this video was interesting for you, give me a like as feedback. There will of course be more videos about the Insta360 X4. So stay tuned and see you next time.